Hi there, welcome to this week's edition of City View. I'm joined today by our Chief of the Fire Department, Joseph Barron, and we are at the Quincy Shipyard, facility owned by Dan Koch. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go, but reminder to people the importance and the mission of the fire department. It's one of our major departments of the city. Budget's about $25 million. We obviously have a chief, 5 deputies. We've got 41 lieutenants, 15 captains. How many captains?
14.
14 captains, 156 firefighters, and we've got 8 stations around the city manned by our department. And Chief, we're standing in front of 2 new pieces of equipment to add to the fleet. I know that these trucks have a lot of runs. There's a lot of wear and tear on them, particularly the major stations. The peninsula is less so, but how many runs a year do we do generally as a department? And
We do about 10,000 runs a year. We're a very busy department.
yeah.
And so the trucks are constantly being used, as you know. We're very excited to have these particular trucks in the city. A lot of advancements in them, a lot of work went into them. We've started with the last ladder truck that we bought through your efforts in the city council. We put committees together. The boots on the ground actually tour and they have a lot of input into what we actually buy today, right, which makes great sense. So these trucks are state of the art. They've been admired by other departments looking to move forward with this type of a vehicle.
And by the way, you don't just go to a dealership and buy a fire truck off the lot. It's actually built from scratch. So when you talk about the boots on the ground being involved, it's decisions about how the truck's going to be laid out and built and all the pieces to it.
Absolutely. It takes, once you get through the planning stage, it takes about 10 months before we actually see them in the city. Yep. And then training the firefighters that are going to be on it, because there's new features. So somebody from Bulldog Fire Apparatus comes in and actually trains our department on this truck. So it's quite a process, and we're very excited now to actually have delivery on them. And now they're going to go in service before this winter. So great progress.
A little different from when you first went on the fire department.
Absolutely.
I remember as a kid seeing the guys go by hanging off the back of the trucks.
And I was one of those guys. Yeah. So yeah, when you had a blizzard, boy, you were actually out in the blizzard when you went down the street. They were convertibles. Right. And you drive along, and in between the windshield and you was the storm. Yeah. So yeah, big difference.
Let's talk about it. I know we're going to be talking a little bit with your mechanics as well. Maybe a couple of the major features of these trucks. I know the tank is bigger, for example. We'll talk a little bit about that. It
is. This is a 750-gallon tank as opposed to 400. So we've got 50% more water in them. Okay. Very important, particularly when you talk about going up onto the expressway. Yeah. We have limited water supplies. And one of these trucks is going to be in West Quincy. Yep. So, you know, you've got 50% more time with applying the extinguishing agents. Right. So very important. But everything on this truck is a little more user-friendly. Yep. Things that I didn't see early on, rear view cameras when you're backing up. Yep. Great safety feature. And these trucks, first in the city, have the camera for the blind spot. Okay. So that once you put the blinker on, now you're getting a visual of that traditionally blind area beside you. So certainly very important. But everything is sort of designed to be that much more user-friendly. Right. Much lower to the ground, you know, preventing injuries from lifting things at a much higher height. So it's.
And those special compartments were made for certain storage of certain equipment and tools.
All of your hand tools are bracketed in the truck. The feature that I really appreciate and like is the cab itself for the troops. Years ago, like you say, I was on the back step. Now you look in here, you can actually, everybody can talk. You're not getting the road noise from the diesel engines. You're not getting the noise from the siren. And so orders can be given, information can be passed back and forth en route that we didn't years ago have that capability.
Right.
And every truck we buy seems to be a little bit better, a little better insulated, and a little more user-friendly. And it's certainly a great investment for the city.
Well, it's an important investment, that's for sure. I know people probably don't think too much about this stuff until there's a need, until they call 911 and waiting for that call. Let's talk a little bit about the runs. I know that obviously when there's a car accident, when there's a medical, obviously a fire, those are the type, when you talk about 10,000 runs a year, it includes all of those things.
Absolutely.
They're not all working fires.
Absolutely.
But, talk a little bit about how that breaks out.
Well, we're probably doing 50 to 60%, depending on the station, is medical calls.
Yep.
Big part of the job. Practically all of our firefighters are emergency medical technicians.
Right.
So they're very, very well trained for that.
And you're
aspect.
usually on scene before anybody else.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is huge when it comes to certain medical events.
Oh, absolutely. You can, severe damage if you're more than 6 minutes without oxygen being perfusing your vital organs. So, yeah, critical. And we have defibrillators on each truck.
Right.
So,
great invention, those were.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
saved many, many lives.
Yeah.
We get carbon monoxide is a big concern every year, and particularly this time of year,
right,
when heating systems are turned on.
Yeah.
Hopefully residents have all caught on and do have the carbon monoxide detectors in the home. And when they're activated, we immediately respond and we mitigate that problem right away. So preventing injuries,
and
saving lives.
we're right into the holiday season, so I'm sure you've got some tips about that. People using candles. And
Yes, yeah, certainly. We discourage the use of candles at all times.
right.
And if you do use them, it should be on have a wide base to it, not be in an area where it can be tipped over.
Right.
Have children or pets near them. And they're still a major cause of house fires,
Right.
which is surprising because, the information is out there.
Even decorating the tree. I know everyone today they don't use candles anymore, but keeping your Christmas lights in good order, if they see cords frayed, that kind of thing, I'm sure is also an issue.
Absolutely.
You might want to remind people of what to look
Absolutely. Yeah, you have those older wired lights. They certainly should be put out of service after a few years. They get wound up. They don't get stored properly usually.
Right.
When you're through with them, they go in a box. So yeah, it's a big concern.
And don't run extensions under carpeting and all those. No. I remember Captain Lyons used to do these shows and talk about those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that has come to light very recently, and is when people get their oil tanks filled. This time of year, you're filling them to capacity, and we had an incident recently where one let go, and it's very costly to the homeowner.
Right.
So you really need to get your heating system inspected every year, yeah, and also your oil tank.
Right.
It's very important.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And I know we talked a little bit about the medicals and all, but Rescue One back in service. Talk a little bit about that, the importance of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a city this size. It's vital to the city. Any sort of entrapment, any sort of collapse with all the construction, a lot of construction accidents.
Car accidents.
Yeah, car accidents with the jaws of life. The gentlemen, the firefighters that are on it are terrifically motivated. I come in the morning, they've got the equipment out, they're training with it. They constantly have their hands on it.
Yeah.
So, they talk about sometimes those incidents being of a low frequency, but if they're a low frequency, they're a high consequence.
Right.
And so our guys they're constantly drilling with it. They do high angle rescues, they drill with those, confined space.
And when you have a working fire, I assume they go right to that, and
Absolutely.
it's more bodies
Absolutely.
at the scene.
Absolutely. We're able to put on a first alarm 18 to 20 firefighters on a first alarm. that's a big punch.
Yeah.
When you have a fire, fires grow exponentially. They don't grow in neat packages. So to get there, to be able to intervene early, we've had a number of fires so far in this city this year, and by and large, we're able to keep them to single alarms.
Right.
And that's a testament to the training and skill of the firefighters, to the tools that we have.
Yeah. I know recently you recognized Lieutenant Paul Leonard for his work on that Huntley Road fire, and that could have had a traumatic tragedy.
Absolutely. The response to that fire, like I say, single alarm, in the area of 20 firefighters, 3 engines, 2 ladders, and the rescue truck. They get in there quick. They start to set up. The engine company, the ladder companies are throwing ladders. The engine companies are getting a water supply. Lieutenant Leonard, off the ladder truck, directed his men to throw the ladders. He immediately went into the building, got to the 2nd floor without a hose line, but fully geared up with a self-contained breathing apparatus. He can go into that extremely dangerous environment, and he was able to rescue the homeowner. I spoke to her a week ago. She's enjoying the holiday with her families, and she's very appreciative. So, tremendous.
That's one example. I know we want to thank Lieutenant Leonard, but that's one example of what these guys do every day. I know that we've had some tough fires the last couple of years. Up by the Falls was a tough one. I know the building construction is different. So, as the chief has said, the more manpower we get to that scene immediately, the far better shot we have at knocking the fire down and containing it without a lot more expense and damage. So we're walking right now. We're behind Engine 5, and this one's going to West Quincy, Chief.
It is. Yeah, very busy.
You mentioned that it handles the highway accidents, and then West Quincy in general.
That's right. Yep.
I assume Engine 1 headquarters is the busiest station?
Well, it will go between Engine 1 and Engine 5, back and forth. I'd have to grab the statistics out to give you exactly, but yes, very busy trucks.
So they're identical engines. This one's 5 going to West Quincy, and the one we're about to pass here is Engine 1, which will be assigned to headquarters. And let's talk about the 2 pieces coming out now.
Well, they're 05 vintage, and
2005.
And so those will go to Howes Neck and Squantum.
Yep.
The trucks that will come out of service there are about 25 years old.
Yep.
So it's a big investment for the city, but it gets used over time, and so it's a good investment.
Absolutely.
We have mechanics here that are outstanding.
We're going to be talking to them shortly.
They do an awful lot of work in-house, and I talk to chiefs from across the state, and they're very impressed with what we're able to do here in Quincy.
Yeah. So this is, I tell you, they're good-looking trucks.
They are. They're pretty.
But like anything else, if you don't have the apparatus you can depend on, the equipment you can depend on, the guys can't do their job. So this is an important piece of. If we're going to send folks into harm's way, they got to have the right equipment.
Absolutely. When you go into that environment, that terribly hazardous, unpredictable environment, you have to know that hose line that you have is going to provide a continuous water supply, that you have the crews to back you up if you get in trouble.
Right.
You have a good command structure that knows where everybody is at any one time. And we constantly drill and we make sure those pieces are there.
Yeah. Well, I know we started with, you talked about teams involved in putting together specs really to build these out. So I know Deputy Jackson was involved. There's some other folks you want to mention. We want to thank them for their
absolutely.
Because it's extra work. It's not part of their duties.
That's right. Deputy Chief Joe Jackson chairs the committee.
Yeah.
We have Captain Gillen from West Quincy heavily involved.
Yeah.
Captain Pat D from headquarters heavily involved.
Yeah.
And the firefighters that work at those stations all participated.
Right.
So it really it shows.
Sure.
It shows in the truck.
Well, Chief, I appreciate you taking the time and talk a little bit about the truck. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks,
we
Chief.
certainly appreciate it.
Now I'm joined by our master mechanic, Michael O'Connor, who does an unbelievable job keeping all our pieces of equipment up and ready. But the facility we're in, I just want to comment a little bit on that, is the public would have no idea where we are. We're actually in the Quincy shipyard, the portion of the shipyard owned by Mr. Dan Koch. And for many, many years, the Quincy Fire Department has been had a presence down here for the mechanic shop and a training facility at no cost to the taxpayer. Mr. Koch has been extremely generous. The building we were formerly in, as we were driving in actually today, Michael, we saw it being taken down. Mr. Koch has graciously allowed the department to have a bay here in his new building. And I know that I'm sure you're quite happy with the new facility.
Yes, very much so.
But I know in the department we get about 215 employees. There's 3 that are non-firefighters. We have 2 mechanics and we have a financial person up at headquarters.
Yes, that's
so
correct. Yep.
Everybody else is a sworn firefighter. I know you have an assistant who is a tremendous help to you.
Yes, Kevin Miller.
Kevin does a nice
he's
job
a great
with
help.
you.
Yep. He's been with me for 6 years, 7 years.
It's important to remind people that this equipment has to be running all the time. There's no downtime. It's not like a DPW truck where the dump truck goes down, it can go off. A lawnmower at the park department, the trucks have to be in service all the time. So the dependency is huge, and we've got 2 outstanding mechanics, and of course Michael leading the charge on it. We're very, very fortunate. So we're looking around here, we see a lot of equipment. This lift wouldn't carry one of the engines. This would be for the smaller cars.
No, this would be small cars, and up to 12,000 pounds that will lift, so pickup trucks and everything like that can be serviced on the lift.
Yep. And what we're looking at is one of the spares.
That's one of the spares. Yes, that's the old Hanover piece that was we purchased 2 years ago, I believe.
Right.
And we also have this piece here, engine 9, which we purchased from Peterborough, New Hampshire as a used piece.
Yep.
Now all our spares are enclosed. So the firefighter is not riding, the rear firefighter is not riding outside the truck anymore for safety reasons.
When we talk spares, it's if a piece is out of service for whatever reason.
Yes, if we pull it for maintenance and stuff like this, that will go into service while we have their original truck.
Yep, okay. All kinds of equipment, and
yes.
I assume in the mechanics world it's your own tools, right? That's
no. The city purchases all the tools. Okay. There's a huge toolbox over there that they purchase. Yep. These lifts here are able to pick the truck. We have 4 what they call mobile columns. Each column is 9,800 pounds, was rated for.
Wow.
The city purchased those so we can pick the truck right up off the ground, and 42 inches up off the ground, and we can walk right underneath the truck.
Wow.
It's huge.
What's the weight of one of these engines?
The engines are about 54,000 pounds for an engine.
Wow. And
so we could pick up one of the single axle ladders, so we can pick up, the majority of the fleet can be picked up with these.
And you keep, we're looking around, I see belts of all kinds.
Yeah, we keep belts, we keep tires for everything, so everything, if we get a flat in the middle of the night, we don't have to call a tire company. We can have the company come down, and we can change the tire on site, and they're back in service within an hour. So.
And you have you guys have a truck, so if something happens out in the scene, you guys can
respond. Yes, we have a brand new truck
fully
that
equipped.
you thankful we purchased a couple of years ago, and it's a great truck. So, but
I know we're back over by engine 5, but we talked to the chief a little bit about it, but. This looks pretty complicated when you start to look at the mechanics of it, but maybe you could talk a little bit about what some of this stuff means.
Well, this is a waterless pump. So a waterless pump is the manufacturer of the pump. We've used Hale pump. I've been here for 23 years, and we haven't used a waterless pump in probably 50 years. So waterless pump now covers 10-year warranty on parts and labor, where a Hale pump, it was only 5 years. So the waterless is a much better value to the city if something goes wrong with it,
So you could, this is the piece to the intake, right?
This is the piece for the intake. Hydrant. Yes. So you uncap that, you turn that, and then you open this valve up, and the water enters into the pump. You pull tank to pump up here, tank to pump. That allows the water from the pump into the tank.
Hoses are you allowed under?
You can run 4 discharges off the pump. Okay. So it's really not that, it looks impressive, but it's really not. It's all electronic governor. Yeah. So all you have to do is one function, push it and preset, and it's all preset to 150 pounds. So, and then they just advance the line into the building and open it up, and you're all set.
How about some of the other things? I know that you talked to me recently about how all of this is laid out so that everything is easy when you get to you get to the scene? These slide right up, and,
Yep,
and there's
these
tools. And
slide right up. We're in the process now of mounting all the stuff in, you know. So
what kind of things will be in here, for example?
This will, the driver's Scott pack will go in here.
Okay. Scott pack, so people know what that is.
Scott pack is what they wear on their back. The SCBA self-contained breathing apparatus.
Yep. Okay.
That will go in here for the driver. Normally, this compartment was for the driver's gear.
Okay.
But we've also implemented this. This was a spec that we wanted to try to, and we got this from Santa Barbara, California, when we went out to do the inspections on the truck.
Yeah.
So his gear will now go in here. There's another one on the officer's side.
Okay.
So they don't have to have their gear in front of them while they're riding along. If they get a box or something, they can pull over to the side of the road, put their gear on, and they're all set to go. So kind of some, these are the water level lights that can be seen. So that tells you how much water is in the truck, as the green is the top one, which is the clear one, and then blue, and they can tell how much water from almost a half a mile away, how much water each one on each side of the truck. So
Okay.
just some nice modern advantages. Chalk blocks, we don't have to worry, you don't even have to raise the door to get the chalk block out. The chalk block's stored in here.
Chalk block is, they have put those behind the
under
wheel so it doesn't roll,
Yep,
the truck doesn't
correct,
roll.
Correct, yep. Yep.
And the hose comes off of the back.
The hose comes off the back, yes, underneath this cover. And this cover slides forward and tilts up, so it's very, very easy loading on the hose bed. So, and everything is shoulder height. So, like Chief Barron said in his interview, there should be no more back injuries. And,
Yep.
But
And I see you've got a number of these stepping
yes,
stools
yep,
all over the
steps,
truck. Makes
yep,
sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
and there's a little LED light, which is really pretty cool, that lights the step as it. So they've thought of pretty much everything.
We should get the lights on for the so the folks at home can see what it looks like lit up. Impressive piece of equipment for sure. So how many feet of hose would the engine have on?
There's 800 feet of 4-inch, which is they call large diameter hose,
Okay.
which is the feeder line. There's 600 feet of 2.5, and there's 300 feet of 1.75 inch, which is the normally carried line.
Yep.
There's 300 feet here. There's 150 feet in the front bumper, and there's 300 feet in the crosslays.
So a working fire engine shows up, they go to the nearest hydrant and drop the line,
yes.
and then pull up to the scene.
And they can either advance it into the front of the engine because there's an intake on the front now, or they can advance it into that red valve on the side.
Gotcha.
So that's their feeder points.
Any other special features the public would be interested in?
We have the Cummins engines, 500 horsepower. We paid a little bit more for the engine because of the horsepower.
Yeah.
But longevity-wise, these trucks should last 20, 25 years easy.
That's awesome.
So
We're now going to take a look on the interior of the beautiful new engines. So we're now seated in the interior, obviously the cab of, I guess this one is engine 5, although they're both identical trucks. This also looks like we're operating a spaceship here, Mike.
yes, yeah.
There's a lot of buttons, a lot of
Yeah.
switches.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about some of this?
Sure, like the master lights, you can just hit that one red button
This
over
one,
there.
Yeah.
Yep, just push it to the top, and all the warning lights will come on.
Wow.
There's a lot of different switches and lights and inside the truck, and
But everything is automatic today as far as the driver goes. The old days, they
yes,
were
automatic
operating stick.
transmission, air brakes. The valves are all laid out nicely. Then we have traffic arrows. We have spotlights, and everything is equipped inside the truck.
Now, there's some intersections that are equipped on the traffic signals. The truck trips
Yes,
the signal so it changes, so it can keep the traffic moving and get to the
It
intersection.
keeps the light to green. The opticom is up, and in this truck.
Does that happen automatic, or does the driver have to hit
The
something?
driver has to hit something. One of those buttons up there should say opticom.
Yeah.
And then he can shut that off because at one time we did have a lot of problems when the apparatus comes to an accident and they get out of the truck. The opticom was still staying lit, and it was keeping the signal, and it would mess up the traffic
sure.
for the next 20
It's already
minutes.
messed up enough, right? We don't need to
we
add to
don't
that.
need so But like I said, air conditioning inside the cabs and heat.
And this holds how many?
This will hold 6 guys.
6 guys total.
So there's 4 seats back in the rear there. Yeah. And the driver and the officer sits in this seat.
And that's important to note. This on every piece of equipment, there's an officer.
There is an officer.
Lieutenant in most cases. In some cases,
yes.
a captain.
Captain. Yep. Yep.
Great.
And the drivers, they rotate the drivers every month. They may drive for 1 month, and some of them do it, every other tour, and they switch around. So
yeah.
Everyone gets a chance to drive. So.
Yeah. I'm sure they're anxious.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
especially
waiting,
the new ones.
They're waiting to get these.
So, Michael, I know the chief talked a little bit about a number of the folks that were involved in putting the specs together, the guys on the grounds, as he said, boots on the ground, I think was the term he used to talk about the guys that use it. But I know you and your assistant worked very hard on this as well. And I'm sure the guys are more on the what compartments and so forth, but you're more into the transmission and the engine and the real mechanical side of things. So this is really top of the line.
Yes, this is the Cadillac of the trucks. So everything is heavy duty, air ride suspension. They have huge transmissions in them. So like I said before, the longevity of this truck will easily be another 25 years.
Having said that, what goes first? What do you have trouble with first?
Electrical is a huge, huge problem, but we have a great resource.
Everything's so complicated now.
Yes, grounds and 2 dissimilar metals and aluminum and steel, and you lose your ground and it can give you haywire. Yeah. So we have a great relationship with Bulldog Fire Apparatus in Hopkinton, who is the dealer for these. And
where are these built, though? Where's the manufacturer?
These are built in Nasca-Honing, Pennsylvania, in the coal country in Pennsylvania. So
now, do we get on and drive them back, or do they deliver them to us?
No, they deliver them to us. They have to be delivered under their own power. Okay. So I believe it's like 400, almost 400 miles it's driven here. So I did go down for pre-build. I did go down for midpoint inspection, and
I'm glad of that. A number of years ago, before I was mayor, of course, I know a piece of apparatus was purchased, and they couldn't get into the station. Nobody measured the opening at headquarters. That's got to be about 20 years ago now.
Last week, Kevin and I went and drove them into the building. So they will fit.
Into the openings, not into the building.
We put it in the building. It fits in the building at Engine 5. So
excellent, excellent.
We had to tuck the mirrors in a little, but they do fit. So
well, Michael, I want to thank you for all you and Kevin do to keep the apparatus up and running.
Thank you for all your help and support in our division.
It's our pleasure. So, folks, hopefully you've learned a little bit more about how the fire department works from the apparatus side. Certainly we're grateful to Dan Quirk again for allowing us the space down here at no charge. He's an unbelievable corporate citizen here in Quincy. We're so grateful for him. So until next time, enjoy your week. Thank you.